And I remember we did a couple of days in between Christmas and New Year last year, and I felt like I was about 50 stone climbing this tree, and it was pissing down with rain. But I was actually quite glad to be there. Like, everyone was down the pub again, and I was just like, I'll see you afterwards, but I actually need to move my body. I'd just been horizontal for like days.
Yeah. Welcome everybody to another Outside Crowd podcast, and delighted to be here with the usual crowd. We got Ryan,
Yo,
and we got Billy.
Hello.
And if you hadn't noticed, although we got climate change, actually it's getting a bit colder.
Cool, yeah.
So that's going to affect work over the next few months. So I was going to talk to these excellent chaps, because they know what they're talking about outside, how things change over winter, what they do, what sort of workload affects all that sort of stuff, what sort of gear they wear for during winter. So Ryan, how does workflow change for you? Any big considerations as we come into winter?
I think, everyone, it does slow down. We've got things, there's a part where it kind of picks up a wee bit for the Christmas rush, as it were. Everyone wants to get things done before Christmas. And then, now November, you've got everything slowing down towards Christmas. I don't expect too many phone calls now until after Christmas, when it's all been done. So there is a little bit of downtime, a bit of quiet time that happens. So we've got to make sure we're all booked up until after Christmas.
What happens on existing jobs you've got? So if they're running on over Christmas, do you try and get everything finished before Christmas, or do you put jobs on hold if they're...
It does depend. It does depend, A, what the client wants to do, and B, whether it's going to be efficient for us to go to the project, start, set up. I don't really like leaving anybody over Christmas with, their garden dug out and not being able to use it or whichever. But again, it does depend on the client. But usually I try and keep, at least we get to a certain point of the at least we get MOT down and put some temporary steps in, which we have done in the past. Get everything clean. Get everything clean enough.
Yeah.
We've had people having parties on the MOT before, around Christmas, having a bit of a laugh, and you come back after Christmas and you see a few bottle caps and you think, oh, someone's had a good time.
What does MOT stand for?
MOT is...
Ministry of Transport.
No, I know that, but...
Type 1, Ministry of Transport, Type 1.
Oh, is that one?
Yeah.
It's the same thing as like a... Is it?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's the sort of thing that everyone goes, yeah, we know what that means, but most of them go...
Well, I knew that for getting your car MOT. I knew that was...
No, it's for uses you can use, so the Type 1, Type 2 and 3, but it's all standard, you could use it.
I didn't realise it was actually the same thing, yeah. Mad. Sorry.
That's right. So not.
Do you have a formal, like in the construction industry, usually as a Christmas break? Do you have a full Christmas break?
Yes, I do.
When does that start?
This year, I try and give everyone quite a lot of time off. The last couple of years, it's 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
It is,
That's bloody money, mate. You're going to be making money.
No, most likely, absolutely. But I mean, for me. Family's very important. I lost my father around Christmas, so it's like, everyone wants to be hanging out with their family and doing that, and we don't get much time off in the year.
No.
We really don't, and it's a tough job we do. This time of year, we got November, December. It's lovely. Like last year, it was nice. It was nice up until January, and then it started raining and then it stopped. So I'm preparing the team for a well-rested, lots of nice downtime, rest, lots of family time, because I guess you've got the 2 weeks off. So you get usually with builders you get a two week period, and that period could be halfway through 1 week, and then you've got get off on the 23rd, whatever. You've got a couple of days before Christmas. You have Christmas. You have the week in between, which is lovely. And then you got New Year, and then you come back on the 3rd.
Yeah.
And it's like, people I know myself, especially with shopping, it'd be last minute. And it's, for me, I try and give the team a bit of time before Christmas so they don't have to, rush around, and they can get organised, get settled. Yeah. And then after Christmas and then New Year. I mean, like this year, I believe the full week starts on the 6th. So we're going back on the 6th this year. I've already organised with the team that we're going to go back on the 6th because that's the full week's work. There's when you go back in the middle of the week after New Year and you think, right, okay, let's go collect some material or let's go. Everybody on the road doesn't want to be there. Everybody at work doesn't want to be there. So for me, it allows the people to go back to work for a couple of days. Yeah. And by the 6th, everyone's a little bit happier. They've got over there. Oh, this is so it gives a bit of a chance, and it also gives the team a chance to have those couple of days after where things are open. So as we're landscapers, people might have projects at home they want to get on with, or X, Y, and Z. But if you let somebody off on the 24th, or so the 23rd, and then they're back on the 3rd, or 2nd. A lot of stuff is shut. There's not a lot there. So being able to just say to the team, look, there's an extra 4 days there. And I do give the choice. It's not.
I think in a lot of cases, isn't it? Because I was just thinking, our old company, we used to give them sort of like try and shut down. I don't know, day before. So we used to give them like Christmas Eve off.
Yeah,
that was always like an extra day we gave them. And then we'd come back on usually about the 3rd, so the day after New Year's. So it'd probably be the 2nd, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Unless we gave them an extra day, depending how the week fell. But we'd give them that period. But I suppose with you guys, because our lot always had like quite a bit of holiday during the year as well, and I always get the impression that a lot of guys don't take that amount of time off during the year.
Not really. I mean, I've got a couple of the younger guys, Ollie especially. He likes heading off into the sunset and doing his own thing, which is great. Unfortunately we're losing him as a team member early in next year because he's going off to Australia travelling, which is wonderful to hear.
He's not.
He is, yeah.
No, he's not.
He's not. He's not. Okay, that's it.
You tell him.
No, he's not. I'll let him know. I'll put the tyres down on that plane. But no, it'd be sore to see him go. But we don't own anyone, do we? People only work as hard for you as well as you treat them. So all he does jet set off. But the thing for me is he's always got the job in mind. He'd always finish things off and get things set, give us a list and go, right, that's what we need to do, and then he'll be straight on the phone when he gets back in lands because he loves working with us. He loves his job, loves working with us.
And the other guys take their holidays or
some of them, I mean, I think like Ty's had a few weekends here and there and everywhere. He's had some lovely weekends away, and same as Ash. So they take some time off, but there's not a time where I've had the majority of people go, right, I'm off for a week or I'm off for 2 or stuff like that holiday wise. So that's I don't know, I feel it's a bit of the nature of the game. So trying to give the team that time off, because when you come back in January, February, March and you're standing looking at each other in the pissing rain, and it's helps a little bit for me, giving that time off.
So the other person we have here is William.
3 days, that's it.
So how things work for you, Bill? Because I imagine it's not just it's probably a bit more complex for you, isn't it, over Christmas and the winter period as well, winding down.
So we hope to be normally busy all the way up till Christmas. Whatever the day before Christmas Eve is. Sometimes we work Christmas Eve, that falls in a weekday. Most people like to take 2 weeks off, but me and Charlie will normally work during Christmas as well. We'll have a couple of days. Because otherwise I'm not on the straight and narrow anymore. Like do you know what I mean? It's just, what Christmas is like. It's boozing, it's eating, boozing, eating. And I remember we did a couple of days in between Christmas and New Year last year, and I felt like I was about 50 stone climbing this tree, and it was pissing down with rain. But I was actually quite glad to be there. Like everyone was down the pub again, and I was just like, I'll see you afterwards, but I actually need to move my body. I'd just been horizontal for like days, and just drinking loads, and I'm like, you don't sleep as well because you're pissed all the time, and I just so I normally will go back, but also in between then I'll go to the yard, have a yard day, and anyone who wants to come and do that for a couple of days, and we're sort of sharpening the stores, tidying everything up, all the stuff that just gets left to left to Christmas because you just don't have time to do it. Just throwing stuff away that we don't need. We'll get a skip in. And just making everything presentable for when everyone comes back. It's like a reset. It's the new year,
That's exactly
so you want to be like, this is like, we're smashing the new year. So you come into a nice tidy yard, all the vehicles are clean, all the saws are sharpened, all the ropes have been hung up and tidied away properly. Everything's ready to go. And that's a really nice thing for everyone to come back to. And also for me and my peace of mind, because there's lots of things over the year where I'm just like, oh, that's annoying me. But then you just don't get round to it. And also it's always being used and, you know, like, it's just like, it's a nice time to do like proper deep dive into your maintenance, which you otherwise wouldn't get to do. You just kind of like, sometimes you're just sort of blasting through work and because in tree work, the winter is still very busy, and it's also much harder on all the equipment because, you know, you're just like, you're running like 2-stroke engines in colder temperatures, everything gets soaking wet all the time, you know, so you want to make sure everything's, you know, good. Like, well, the minute they start putting salt on the roads, the transits just turn into a bucket of rust, so they need to be pressure washed all the time. And then, you know, over Christmas it's really good to like wax all the chassis and stuff like that.
We're doing ours together, aren't we?
Yeah,
we're doing waxing together, aren't we?
Come and do that.
Wax
We'll
on,
wax
wax
our
off.
heads as well. And so it's a good opportunity to just you know take a look at everything and do that. But in general, I don't like to take loads of time off work. But it's winter's a busy time for us.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how does the actual workflow change? Because I imagine there's lots of things that are need to be done in winter for clients. Clients want the different types of work that's seasonal.
Yeah, so it's like a lot of well, you get a lot of storm damage work. And then also like with trees, you know, once the leaves are off, like things become more apparent. Like there might be a big fracture in a branch that you wouldn't have seen unless it was the leaves are off it. You can see the movement of a tree more. That worries people more than anything. Is like, oh, this house is within this distance. This tree's within this distance of my house, and the way it moves in the wind. And you know what it's like in the winter. It's constantly windy,
that all the time.
The weather's up, and you're like, well, that was going to happen. And you know, doing a reduction to a tree, there's a visible difference in the way the tree moves afterwards. You know, like if you're doing reductions on trees, it's not only light penetration, but you're also removing that sail effect. Yeah, and like deciduous trees, they'll lose their leaves to protect themselves against falling over during the winter. But it's this sometimes trees are completely covered in ivy and stuff like that, and they're still moving about. So we'll do removing ivy off trees.
Do you recommend that people actually go and get their trees checked out during the winter so that you can actually see the timber better without the leaves? Is that a good thing to do?
I think it's a good idea, but what I would recommend is depending on where it is, depending on if it's close proximity to the house, if it's next to a public right of way, a roadside, that sort of thing. It depends, because in the winter, yes, you can see the structure of the tree better, you can see cavities, that sort of thing, and a climbing inspection might be handy. But in the summer, you also can see you get a good idea of how the physiological processes are, the biological processes are. Biological, not physiological processes are going. If, like, for example, a tree has a pathogen, like giant polypore, Meripilus, which is it's a fungus, okay, that's quite predominant in like beech trees, and they have this sort of like really sporadic like dieback that you can see.
Oh, when it's in leaf.
If it was in the winter, you wouldn't know. But it's really apparent in the summer. So the summer's good to have things checked like that. But there are visible differences where a client can see that. Be like, oh, I think my tree's sickly. It's really obvious to anyone. If it's in the middle of the woods, you might not notice. But if it's next to your house, you'll go, oh yeah, and then you can get someone else. But in general, yes, the winter is a great time to see the structure of a tree, and if there's anything that is potentially dangerous or
And do the majority of work, right?
Sorry?
Do majority of work?
Not majority of work, but a lot of remedial work, like pollarding we'll do when the tree's dormant.
Yeah.
And also what's quite good is, like pruning, I think, you can make quite a big difference in the winter. You get, the light, when people are concerned about the light in their garden, obviously they often are. In the winter, obviously, we really lack light, and it's not just like because fair enough, people aren't sitting in their garden anymore, but they are in their house, and the sun's much lower, and you can really thin a tree out, and you can get more light penetration, and you can do that sort of thing. So reduction work even helps for that. in the winter, because it's not, as I said, like it's not the light in your garden that concerns you anymore. It's the fact that your house is literally a grey, gloomy,
never gets a bit any heat or any.
Because us as tree sellers, we can often say, "Oh God, bloody hell, we're always doing work for people who want more light into their garden." The tree probably would be better off if it was just left. But that's one of the things you have to live with and you have to accept. I wouldn't want to live in a house that was completely dingy because it was covered in trees. And there is work that you can do to a tree, which can benefit the homeowner and also the
life of the tree.
Also help the tree out.
So what others? Because I was going to ask both of you this. What services would you recommend, or not necessarily just services, but things that people can do for their trees,
things to consider,
things to consider, and say likewise with landscaping. What do you think people should be doing? For their patio, what sort of maintenance should they be doing? And all that type of stuff. For things like sleep or wall, should they be putting some more sealant on and stuff?
I was going to say, I would definitely. I always recommend to give a clean in the springtime, ready for the summer events, and then
for the patio.
The patio, give it the whole garden. Sleep walls included.
So how do you clean a patio?
With the jet wash. So you'd use a jet wash to get most, especially with the patios we've done, because everything's been sealed. Clean off with a jet wash.
So you get those silly little bits on the end when people
oscillating head.
An oscillating head.
Is that right?
That is.
Yeah.
I think so. It sounds good. So I've never been, but
because I usually find I've got one of them silly little sort of like spray nozzles, and all I can do, it takes so bloody long to
do the whole thing.
You having a K -4 is probably not the
the car's K-4.
I think someone need to come around to my patio and demonstrate how you clean it properly.
That's right. Absolutely.
Your pressure washer's knackered anyway. So.
She is not. She's a good old girl. She's had her time. We have changed we have changed the head on her since that, and it is better. But bless it, has its time. So we will be looking into a newer one. Yes, but
so what would you do? So would you put a cleaner down?
Depending on how the patio is, I mean, you can put a patio cleaner down. Yes,
you can.
But
people put that on.
They do.
It's pretty lethal for everything around.
I think I was going to say, for me, it's more like, hey, look, just wash it twice a year.
Is that quite good for killing everything, Joe?
It is literally brilliant for killing everything, but it will fucking kill everything.
Don't.
Oh right, a load of ivy I could get rid of.
Yeah, Jay's fluid, mate. Yeah. People put it on the patio, let it dry slightly, and then they pressure wash it off. But
what do you do for a living? Huh? Are you tree surgeon?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we were understood.
Did you used to do a bit of it?
I've been to one of your jobs.
Which one was that?
JJ's.
Who?
Do you remember? And
fucking hell, God.
So anyway, what you do is you clean the patio up in the winter.
It wasn't one of my jobs. It was someone else's. I was working for Ryan.
Yeah. So you clean the patio off in the springtime, ready for the summer events, and I'd also say the same in the winter. But this time of year,
would you reseal it?
I would. Yes, I would reseal it. Again, depending. What
about stuff like the other bits you get with the maintenance? Is like getting all the bloody new bits of vegetation that's growing through the joints.
Well, if you have a patio that's laid properly and the pointing that's fine, you won't have that. But if you do have that, I would recommend blowing the joints out, regrinding it out, and repointing.
What about block paving?
Goodness me, block paving. What do you mean about block paving?
Well, like when it's got kiln dried sand in between.
That's it. Yeah.
How do you do that? Because my dad's got that, and we've never known what to do with it.
What do you mean, kiln dried sand?
I know you have to brush it back in, don't you?
So yeah,
but it's like I've done it before and it's been all wet and hasn't worked properly.
Well, that's because it's kiln dried, yeah. So you want to make sure it's dry. So what you would do is you would jet wash your block paving.
Wait for it to completely dry.
How about you wait for me to finish?
Sorry.
Yeah. You would. Yes, you move everything off. Let's start here, right?
It's
you go to your house.
Time,
you go to your house. You get your jet wash out. You unreel it. You find a hose.
Yeah.
You clean everything off. Get everything off patio or the driveway, as it were, block paving. Remove everything. Give everything a good clean down. Once it's been blown off and cleaned down, you probably want to use a blower. Get your leaf blower and blow it off first, so it helps get majority of it off, or at least some of it. Then jet wash everything down. Once it's dry, once everything's starting to dry, you'll find out whether you have a drainage issue, whether you've got too much water and you can deal with that. Sweep everything off, and then once you've jet washed it the first time, you'll be able to see where there's places where it needs a bit more scrubbing or needs a cleaner, because some places might not need it. So for me, for cleaners, I would use them I would use them in specific places. You know, I wouldn't want to just put a cleaner over the whole patio using chemicals for no reason. I would clean the patio off all the block paving. If you do have staining, there are products out there that can be used, and LTP is an absolutely wonderful product that I've always used. Lithophyn as well. Lithophin's a lovely product as well. I would always recommend using them. And yeah, going around and cleaning it. And once it's dried and you have a dry day, then get yourself a bag or two, depending on the size of the area, of kiln dried sand. Using a soft broom, you would cut the corner off the bag and pour out the bag over the whole area. Start in one corner and sweep that sand in dry, so it drops between. Now that's going to help with drainage and help prevent weeds.
So you can just wait a few days before you do it?
Not a few days, depending on the weather.
So you can wait till it gets dry, basically.
But I would just make sure it's clean first.
And if you've got weeds coming through on those block paving or moss, what do you do with that? So do you pull those out, or do you put a weed killer down?
You use a product. I mean, I would probably initially take off the worst of it myself. You know, pulling weeds out where you can. You know, take the worst of it off. And this could be done in stages where you could do this. Say, you know, I guess as we're talking about winter, it might be not the best time to do it because you want to be doing it in those months where things are growing, especially with most sprays. So we're probably coming to the end of sprays now, I believe, it's spraying time and weed killers and what have you. So I would clean the area down, find out where the main areas are, and then use it in just those areas rather than going out and spraying absolutely everything again.
How much sand? How many kilograms per metre squared?
What you want to do is you want to use 0.2.
This is your specialist subject on mastermind.
It does depend absolutely what you're using and what blocks you are. But I mean, most areas, if you had.
So that's the main thing. Do you think, like cleaning down the patio, getting that? What about things like sleeper walls and timber stuff? Would you spray that down? Would you jet spray that as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd clean that off. I would clean that off. I'd get the build up of any leaves that are there or any green waste that are up against it. I'd take that down. So and the grass around it, I'd make sure that was trimmed nice and low, so you don't have any moisture from the ground rising, up as much as it needs to, or more than it needs to. Sorry. But yeah, I definitely recommend jet washing that down, and it just gives a good look to the garden before the winter months. So when you're looking out the window, and even though it's piddling with rain, you can look out on a nice clean garden.
And sorry, go on.
One thing I would say is on patios, if your patio isn't sealed, I definitely recommend sealing your patio. But even if you have sealed your patio, I'd make sure that the leaves that do fall this time of year, that you get yourself either a leaf blower, electric or whatever, and get those leaves off. Get the leaves up, because depending on the type of stone, you could have some staining on that, as well as it creates a green film over the top, which is quite slippery. Yeah. So it's keeping them off. So when it does dry, it dries clean, and it's not as slippery. That's what I'd say.
Right then, William, your specialist subject. So
what it's landscaping. Do you not hear?
Very good.
What are the main things that you would recommend people look out for in their garden over winter?
Look out for?
Yeah, just like for general maintenance, and if they're not sure, to call in an expert like yourself.
Yeah, I think as we said, like it's a good time of year to see the structure of a tree. Also, like there's a lot of things you can do yourself. A lot of people can't be bothered, but it's like winter pruning of apple trees, or fruit trees. Apart from stone fruit, you want to be like cherry and plum. You don't want to be doing that in the winter. You want to do that in the middle of summer, because they get something called bacterial canker, so they're more susceptible to it in the winter. So we do the seeded fruit, like your apples, your pears, that sort of thing. We're doing that in the winter, because
apples and pears.
Apple and pears.
How do you know which things to prune? Because I haven't got a clue. I'm always looking out there. I think like rhododendrons and things like that I need to cut back, and I'm thinking, do I do that in the winter, or do I do that
rhododendron, azaleas, camellias, you really want to be doing them straight after they finish flowering, because the whole reason you have them is because of their flower, and they normally flower, well, actually depending which species you have, but mostly they flower in spring. Some of them flower at this time of year as well. That's another one thing to consider. But after they drop their flowers, they have new buds to flower for the following year. So you want to be pruning directly after flowering. They give them time to put on new growth and flower buds, and then you've got, a nice pruned shrub ready to be.
That sounds
right.
good.
So if someone comes to you at the wrong time of year saying they want their rhododendron,
I'd say it's a job for. But actually, depends. I say, how much work have I got? I'll do it now. No, I'll say, yeah, it's a job for.
Yeah, but it's not something that's going to kill the plant, is it?
No, you just lose your flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. If you don't really care about it, I just want this thing smaller. If it flowers in a few years, then fine. Like rhododendrons are pretty hardy. They're pretty hardy things. You can take them right back to nothing, and they'll sucker up and activate all those dormant buds, and then they just come up into it nice.
Right.
But yeah, so that's the sort of things you want to be looking out for. Autumn time, when it's getting into winter, fruiting bodies on trees. Is there any bracket fungus, that sort of thing?
What's that?
Sorry,
what's that?
So you
one's
see
held to the wall.
You see if you think about the archetypal fungus that you would see on a tree, that bracket fungus. We call it bracket fungus, where it's a sort of horseshoe shaped or solid fungus on the side of the stem or at the base.
Don't have any of that because you're my tree surgeon.
Yeah, well. They're the sort of things you want to be looking
when
out
you
for.
gluing that there.
Yeah, we do go around and glue some mushrooms. That's toast. That's right. It's got to come down. Well, there's things like honey fungus that will, they fruit, sometimes slightly away from the base, but any sort of fruiting body, which is what we call because the actual fungus itself is normally within the stem, or if it's in the root system. Sometimes a tree can be infected by a fungus, but it hasn't fruited, we call it. So when you see the mushroom itself, even like any sort of mushroom that you eat, that is the fruiting body of the fungus itself. It's not the fungus, because you can break the fungus, you can break the fruiting body off, but it's not going to kill it.
Yeah.
It's not like a perennial plant. If you snapped it off, quite often you can kill them. So you're only seeing that thing at a specific time of year, and it's obviously the best time to identify what it is, because otherwise you wouldn't have a fucking clue unless you're. The symptoms of it, or sometimes they won't even experience symptoms for a few years. But it's a really good thing to look out for. So when you start getting more moisture in the air and moisture in the ground, that's the sort of environment the fungus like to be in. It's a really good time to identify them. So
what about things like cutting? I've got loads of ivy and stuff like that on a bank.
Yeah,
is it good to cut that out, or? Because I would rather not have it. Does it cause any damage?
Ivy is actually fine. It's okay as long as it's not on the tree. Ivy is amazing. I mean, if you don't like it aesthetically,
no, I don't.
That's up to you. Just get rid of it.
But it doesn't. I suppose help support the soil or the ground. Does it anything like that? Is it?
I think there is. It depends, because if you've got loads of trees there with roots, then probably not. Yeah. It's probably not aiding in any way, shape, or form. So sometimes people do plant things like just trailing plants like vinca or periwinkles, ivy, and they do keep the top layer of soil quite sturdy. Yeah. I mean, I'm not. I think sometimes it's more of a question for like a structural engineer. I think sometimes or surveyors, but if there's good root system of trees, that normally is enough to support banks and stuff. But with ivy, I recommend people sever it on any tree that they have in the garden, because when we're doing storm damage work, it's always trees that are cladded in ivy. So.
What's the best way of getting rid of ivy out of the ground, apart from your J's fluid? Was that?
Don't do that.
Getting rid of ivy,
dig it out.
It is tricky, but you either dig it out, or if it's up against the tree, we sever it. We do like a meter.
Cut the trunk out.
Cut the trunk out. Being very careful that you're not hitting the stem of the actual tree itself. Wait for it to die off and it'll fall out. Or if you don't like the look of that, have someone remove it for you.
But in the ground, you've literally just got to go back and find it.
Or you can wait for it. When you've cut it, wait for it to start. The vegetation start coming back, and you can paint a systemic weed killer on it. Right. Which systemic means it will kill it from the outside in as opposed to the inside out. Like, you're not waiting for it to suck it up from the roots. It's going in through the top, basically.
Right.
Yeah. Nice.
So that's a good thing to do. It's like I was talking to someone today about bindweed. this woman, like she had a really bad problem with bindweed in her garden, but she decided to plant in a hedge anyway, and she just put some ground cover on, which you can't really do with bindweed. It will just come up.
Every
And so, it's crazy. So what I always recommend to people to do is before you planted the hedge, you can put an obelisk down. Those metal frames. You put an obelisk down and you train the bindweed round the obelisk, and then you spray the obelisk.
Yes.
So that will kill the bindweed.
That's a very good idea.
It's a good idea.
That's a very good idea.
Because people go, it's very time, and it is a time-consuming thing to do. But otherwise, you will be going to battle. We're losing battle forever against bindweed. Like, it's not gonna work. So fruiting bodies we'll be looking at, fruit trees, that sort of thing. That's what you want to be looking at.
Yeah.
Deadwood, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Anything, because as I said again, like, they can be covered up with leaves, so you can't really see them. Stuff that's likely to fall off and hit you on the head, or children if they're playing in the garden.
Or more importantly, your nice car.
Yeah, or your nice car. Exactly. Those sort of things that you want to be looking out for. And if in doubt, call a professional. William Gordon Country Services. He will and he can have a look for you. And then getting a tree survey done, that sort of thing. It's a great time of year for that, and
excellent.
And also a great time of year to be doing remedial work as well. So.
I know there's a lot to be done in winter, and I must admit I'm surprised you guys haven't asked what needs to be done on the business front, because there's a lot of spreadsheet maintenance that usually needs to be done during the winter months. You need to make sure that all your timesheets are all in order.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. You've got all your cost value reconciliation sorted out. You need to be reappraising your finances for your planning and your budgeting going forward. But the main thing is you need to be cultivating and looking after your spreadsheets. Make sure that they're all nicely looked after.
So I wake up in the morning, that's the first thing I think of, spreadsheets when I wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
And when I went to bed, and my nightmares, and my...
They're pretty hellish, aren't they? They're alright once they're made. Once they're made, it's okay to fill them.
They're great.
That's it, as long as you nurture them.
That's why you need JB.
Yeah, you need to look after them and,
look after the numbers and they'll look after you.
Yourselves, precisely. Right then, guys. Well, we seem to have covered that quite well. Just finishing off, just to thank everyone who's listening in on the podcast. I think we have quite a good few numbers of people who are listening in.
Yeah, nice.
And some viewers from across the world. I know we've got some in Australia, so there's a big call out there for Tommy and all his mates over in Oz. Hope you're listening. Hope you're having a good time. And
hi, Tommy, you're right.
Yeah, keep listening. If anybody, like I say, the podcast is for everyone. If anyone wants to come on, please let us know. Be delighted to have you on. We've got some good guests coming up over the next few weeks, so look out for that. But apart from that, and we didn't quite get onto the Christmas party, but I assume we've got plenty of time to discuss that in future episodes before Christmas, or at least we can hear what's actually going to happen after your Christmas party.
Probably best to do that.
Yeah, I think so.
So wrapping it up then. So from Ryan,
see you later, team.
From Billy, and from me, JB. We'll see you next time on another Outside Crowd podcast.